being in a training a couple of weeks ago, and it was for financial analysts, and it was just a workshop. And there was a gentleman who was a speaker. And so this gentleman stood up and he started his speaking. And at the end, he said, by the way, let me just tell you something. You Christians are very interesting. You read the Bible too literally. Let me explain to you a story. And he started talking about the story of Moses and Pharaoh. And he said, sometimes you read that story, you think it's historical, how the ocean was parted and these guys passed, and you leave it at that. But if you take things so literally, then you don't grab the message. And he said, each and every one of you is a Moses. He said, every single one of you is called to set the captives free from this Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh is poverty, the Pharaoh is sickness, the Pharaoh is ignorance, the Pharaoh is distress. Every single one of you. And I thought, yeah, that is so powerful. And it's actually, when you look at Isaiah 61, for example, it says, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness the prisoners. And so that is what my calling is. Not me as Rina, but all of us. And so if you're wallowing in stress from not being able to pay rent, or just living from hand to mouth, then it doesn't happen. So we have to be wealthy and we have to invest. And so where do I start? I hear you ask. Where do I start? I hear there's people who are already investing in the room and it's awesome, but there might be somebody who has no idea, where do I even begin? And the first place to begin is to clarify your goals. Clarify your goals and understand what is it that you want to be able to do. Because each of us has a different calling, has different things that God is calling us to do. So what are those things? There's different desires we have for different ones of us. Some of us want to be able to, go on holiday every so often. You want to live in a certain place. You want to own your own home by this time. You want your children to go to university or to go to school. And so you need to clarify your goals. The second thing that you then must do, before I go to the second thing, the thing about clarifying your goals is that it helps you to deny yourself. Somebody used that word. It helps you to deny yourself and save for the future. Because if you're not clear, some people are generally a lot more averse to spending than others. You have people who are hoarders and they know how to budget and live within a budget very strictly. But there are others who are not as strict with themselves. And so what happens? They hear the word budget, and by the way, in fact, I've mentioned that word, and maybe those ones have gone to Westlands, to their next engagement. They're planning for tomorrow's meetings in their mind. And for those of you who may be like that, the word budget makes you feel constrained, constricted, and rebellious. If you're like that, the way to go around it is to have goals. Goals that are yours, goals that are fun, and goals that you will enjoy achieving, because you'll be able to achieve those things that you want. Because for you, money is equal to happiness. And so the other thing with clarifying your goals, please understand that we are all on different paths. We are all on different paths. So my desires, my goals will be very different from yours. And if you see your friends go in a certain journey, or your friends' husbands go in a certain journey, and you're telling your husband, please, can you just get with the program and buy us a car like those guys, or a fridge like that one? You need to understand that everybody has a different journey. So the second thing is you calculate the cost for each of those goals. And then you figure out, how am I going to be able to afford those goals, and what investments do I then need to involve myself in so that I can achieve those goals. The third thing that you do is select investment options that are suitable for the different goals that you have, and I'll give you examples. So these options must be suitable for the different goals. So the goals may be short-term. I need to raise money for a down payment on a home, or I need to pay my child's school fees for third term, or I need to buy a car, whatever those things are. Or they might be medium term. Short term is, say, between 0 to a year, 2 years. Medium term, 3 years to about 5 years. But it depends. And the length of short term and long term and medium term will vary from person to person. But you know yourself, what is long term for you? Is that a year? Is that 2 years? Is that 5 years? But typically, short term is within a year to 2 years. Medium term is 2 years to about 5, and long term is 5 and above. And so the idea is to understand, for example, if you have 200,000 shillings available to you now, you have no business investing. Well, let me say, if you have 200,000 available to you now for the next 3 months, you have no business investing that money in shares. Because if you need that money in 3 months, and you need the principal to be the exact amount and not any less, you'll be in trouble. For example, there's a student at the University of Nairobi a couple of years ago who got his school tuition fee sent by his parents, but they sent to him, not to the school. And so he was like, this is good money, I can invest it and make some money. He had fortunately made some money at a different time in the stock market, and he decided to come and buy Mumia's shares, and he bought them at 49.50. And after he bought those shares, it was a cruise downhill. The share price now is about 85 cents. I didn't even check. I've not checked for like a week. Mumia's. It's about 85 cents. And so he lost the money. He sold eventually because he had to pay for school fees, but he sold at almost half. And so if you have money for short term, you invest in short-term opportunities. And you only risk what you can afford to risk. The younger you are, you can risk money more than if you're older. So there are certain investments that I would say if you're older, then you don't invest too much in, and you only invest what you can risk.